everyone, it's Dawn and welcome to this first in our projects for this week. Hope you've had a good weekend and ready to start another week of painting. Now today I'm going to do something a bit different, which I suppose for me is normal. I'm going to show you how to paint texture. I know we've painted texture before, but we're not going to use a different technique, we're going to use a different brush. And what we're going to do, we're going to use this. Now this is, well, when I say a hog hair, it's actually a synthetic hog hair. But it's usually used for painting with oils, and I believe sometimes you can use it for acrylics, possibly. Someone's nodding at me, it must be true. But usually this is for especially oils and sometimes acrylics, as we've said. But we are going to use this to paint texture in watercolour. I know, hog brushes for watercolour, you must be mad. Well, very possibly, but we're going to do it anyway. So the secret to this is don't have this brush too wet. So what we're going to do, I've got 3 different colours on my palette, just over there out the way. I'll show them to you in a sec. We've got a burnt umber, a yellow ochre and a sap green. And what we're going to do, I'm just going to splash the brush in the water, which is probably just out of shot, which is just as well because it's disgusting, because I've already been painting. And then what you do, dab it out. I've got some kitchen towel over here. As if I roll it in, just dab it on both sides like that to take the excess water out. So it's very similar to a dry brush technique. And what we're going to do, I'll bring this over. So we've dried off our brush. I have got some puddly paint there, but I'm going to pick up some virtually dry. This is yellow ochre. So we've dabbed out our brush, we've dabbed out the excess. And this is yellow ochre. And to make it a fair fight, because I'm going to do a comparison with a watercolour brush. So to make it a fair fight, or a fair competition, I'm going to use a smooth paper. And all we're going to do is drag down like that, and you get that lovely texture. Just drag like that, and as the water comes out of the brush you will get more texture, so you can take a little more moisture out of the brush if you wanted even more textured. And then what we can do is we can pick up a little more like that and go again, perhaps, where should we put it? At the top. So that will give you a nice texture. So if you're painting wood grain or something like that, or a wooden fence perhaps, or a tree, that would be great for that. So we're just going to, you do need to give these a good wash out. So we'll wash that out, and again dab it out on our brush. And to show you the comparison, as if you were going to do this, this is a traditional watercolour flat brush. That was a flat brush, what I've just used. This is also a flat brush, but this is a traditional watercolour brush. So again, I'm going to just dip it in my brush or my water, dab out the excess like that. Same colour, pick up the same colour of yellow ochre like that, beg your pardon, you couldn't see that. So just to show you the difference with a traditional watercolour brush, we're going to, next to it, we're going to put it there, and it should be a lot smoother. So if we paint that like that, you can see, because it's a softer brush, it's the same technique, exactly the same technique, but you get a much smoother application. So just by using a different brush, you can get a different texture, and that's using oil brushes. So don't ever let anyone tell you can't use oil brushes for watercolour, because now we know different. You can. And again, we're going to use, this time we're going to use another hog hair or synthetic, or let's call it an oil brush, and we're going to use a round. So again, we're going to dip it in, dab out the excess water like that on our brush or on a piece of tissue paper, and this time we're going to imagine we're going to be painting a bush. So I'm going to pick up some just neat sap green like that. So straight in there, we're going to pick up some nice thick, let's have a little bit of this puzzly stuff, not too much. And so what we're going to do, if we can, at the top here, so just dab like that. And because it's a tough brush or a rough brush, you get this lovely rough texture. And it's great for painting trees and foliage and things like that. And that's just all with an oil brush. Let's just pick up a bit more. And you can go into that area there. So if you want a little bush there, so that's fantastic for that. Again, wash it out, and I would squeeze it out, and then just again dab it on your brush. But now when you wash these brushes out, when you finish painting, just take them into the sink, or take them to the sink. You've got staining on there, but if you wash it, just run it under the tap. We haven't got a tap handy, otherwise I'd show you, but just hold it vertically under the tap and run the water down the length of the brush, and it will just wash out quite nicely. So there's another tip for you. And again, we're going to take a traditional watercolour round brush, and again we're just going to put some water. Once again, same technique, we're going to dab out like that, and once again we will pick up some fairly dry sap green. If I put that down a bit, you can see it. So I'll take some more sap green like that, and this will give a different look because it's a softer brush. So just underneath here, so that we can do a comparison. Same technique, but a different brush. So if we dab, you can see it's a lot smoother, the texture. You can still use it for your foliage, but it will go on a lot smoother. So there you go, exactly the same technique, but two different brushes, or two different types of brush, will give you a different effect. And the final one I want to show you, I haven't got a watercolour equivalent to compare it with. This is an oil painting brush, but it's a fan brush. Now, most of the watercolour fan brushes I've come across are far too thin to do anything helpful with. Your best bet is to get an acrylics brush, which I haven't got, but, well, I have, but it's across the other side of the room and I didn't bring it down. But this is an oil, so if you've got a thick textured fan brush, like I can see across the other side of the room but can't reach, so if I smile nicely at my husband, he might grab me one of his Terry Harrison fan brushes, if he can find it fairly quickly. If not, yep, that's the one. Thank you, dear. Is that? Oh, it's the same one too. So this is an acrylics fan brush. Thank you, my darling.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And this is an oil fan brush. So we're going to do a comparison. Let's do the acrylics one first this time. Now this is one of the Terry Harrison brushes. Of course, Terry sadly is no longer with us, but his website and his brushes live on. So what we do with this one, and if I bring the water bucket over, you can see what I'm doing. Hopefully you can, I can't, because the sun is so bright it's shining on my screen. You just dip it in, but you squeeze the excess water out, like that. And you can even dab it on your brush, on your paper towel if you like, just to make sure. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to pick up some yellow ochre, straight from, well, not quite straight from the tube, but it's almost straight from the tube. And we're going to pick up some sap green, and we're going to mix a type of olivey green, but still quite thick, maybe a touch more sap green. And we're going to paint a tree. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's turn our paper the other way around. And so we're going to hold this fairly flat, and that will tap in. This is an acrylics brush, as we said, and it will tap in a very nice, this is one of the best fan brushes I've come across. And so that will tap in a very nice tree like that. And we could go further and put a tree trunk, but this is just to show you texture. So we'll be covering trees in greater detail later on in this series, I promise. And so, but for now, we're just going to be concentrating on the texture. And of course, our final trick, as they say, I'm going to be using my oil fan brush. And this is a lot coarser. It's a lot thinner, but it's a lot coarser because it's a hog hair, or synthetic hog hair. So again, we're just going to dip it in the water. Oops, sorry about that. I just knocked my camera. I do apologise. And dab it out on our tissue, like that. This time I'll try and remember where the camera is. And again, we're going to pick up some dry yellow ochre. We've already got a little water on the brush. You don't need much on these brushes. And again, some more sap green. Mix it up like that. So we're mixing our green, not just using one straight from the tube. Sometimes it's good to use it from a tube, sometimes it's good to experiment. And I'm even going to put a little bit, just a tiny bit, of burnt umber in there, just a tiny touch, just to make it a wee bit darker. So, but this isn't really about colour mixing, this is about creating texture. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to put it next to this one so that we can compare the difference. So again, we just dab. So you get us, in a way, you get a similar effect, but it's just a little bit more coarse. The texture is just a little bit more coarse. So if you want a really lovely textured tree, go and treat yourself. If you haven't already got one, go and treat yourself to a couple of oil brushes. You only need 3. I've got this is even a Winton. This is a Winsor & Newton one. This is a Winton fan brush. It's a number 1, but whatever size you want is absolutely fine. And I've got a number 8 round, which of course is this one. And whatever that number is flat, I just picked them up. It's a number, oh, that's a number 8. A number 8 flat, a number 8 round, and mine is a number 1 fan brush. I will add all this in the description down below so that you don't have to remember it, or you can look back to it if you want to. But these are the 3 oil brushes. I don't have any other oil brushes. These are the only 3 that I've got. And you can get them in any size. You can get the same sort of brushes in any size, really. But I've just got these 3. I find that's fine for most paintings if I want to add extra texture. So this is just using the same techniques that we're used to using, but we're using oil brushes instead of watercolour brushes. And it creates a different texture by using the same techniques that we're familiar with. So I hope that's helped you, and I hope it's been useful to you. And I will be back tomorrow, actually. I know I'm not usually scheduled to come on a Tuesday, but just for you crafters out there, I know some of you who watch my channel are crafters as well as artists, which is fantastic. So just for you and anybody else who wants to watch, who might be interested, I'm going to show you how we can use some watercolour techniques and quick tips so that we can use our watercolour paintings and techniques in our card making. So I'll come back as a sort of bonus tomorrow, just for you crafters out there and card makers. So I hope you're going to join me for that, and that you'll find it useful, and that you've enjoyed this one and found it useful. So until then, thank you so much for watching. Do take care, everybody. Stay safe, and as always, happy painting. Bye bye for now.